Hey all, it's Nim or Nimicry if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today we're going to be talking about some great cleavage in Final Fantasy XIV. And to start off, let's get an example of some great Final Fantasy cleavage. Wait, that's not right. Get out of here. Okay, look, we'll try it again. Let's get an example of some great Final Fantasy cleavage. Again, not right. I don't know, kind of closer, a little more nerdy. Alright, let's shake it out, see what we got here. Okay, one more time. Let's get an example of some great Final Fantasy XIV cleavage. Hey, there we go, and it's the Warrior. That's right, we're going over the Warrior Changes for Endwalker. If you like this type of content, or you like me, why not click subscribe and hit that notification bell? That way you can stay up to date with everything the channel does. In addition, on top of that, there will be a list of patrons scrolling by right now. If you'd like to join their ranks, you can go to patreon.com/Nimicry and join the illustrious heroes. But without further ado, the Warrior. Now we're on to our second tank for Endwalker, the Warrior. Big axe. In fact, the Warriors insist on asking you a question. That was a terrible pun, but I stand by it. The Warrior is largely the same, with the big change here being to Nascent Flash, which no longer gives HP based on damage dealt. There is more on that later, according to the article. This is one of the jobs with some notable changes coming pre-level 80. First up, Berserk/Inner Release is no longer a straight buff for 10 seconds. Instead, it grants the Warrior 3 stacks of Berserk/Inner Release for 30 seconds. Each stack of Berserk guarantees a weapon skill attack are critical and direct hits, with an additional effect extending Surging Tempest duration by 10 seconds each time for a maximum of 60 seconds. What's Surging Tempest, you ask? Well, that's the new name for the buff component of Storm's Eye, though it does the same thing. Not all changes are going to be groundbreaking. Some are just going to be renames, but I like the fact that this is trending, because we saw in the Paladin, the buffs gave you 5 stacks of Requisite, as opposed to having a 12-second window to cast. I like the fact that they're giving you more freedom and a little bit longer duration to use your tank abilities. It may draw people to play tanks more and more often, because now they can actually use some of their abilities. Each stack of Inner Release allows the use of Beast Gauge actions without cost and guarantees critical and direct hits. The nullification of Stun, Sleep, Bind, and Heavy is now the additional effect of the ability. With a longer duration of 30 seconds, the extension of Storm's Eye buff is down to 10 seconds pre-activation, though the maximum is still 60 seconds. Oh, and the recast timer for Berserk Inner Release is down to 60 seconds. Ooh, so the cooldown reduction. Alright, again, they're really leaning into, I got this axe, it's coming at you, what are you gonna do? Oh, and by the way, it's critical and direct. Eat it. So, again, I like it. Raw Intuition has seen its mitigation drop from 20% to 10%, but it now heals for 400 potency for each weapon skill successfully delivered during its duration. Very similar to Wildfire for the Machinist. If you've ever played the Machinist, you throw Wildfire on, it has a duration, every weapon skill in there increases in amount of potency, and boom, 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 detonate. It's great. It just trades mitigation for some healing. I wouldn't worry about this much anyway, because Raw Intuition is the new Bloodwetting action when you get Raw Intuition Mastery trait at level 82. If you also accidentally read it as Bedwetting, you're not alone. Bloodwetting reduces incoming damage by 10% for 8 seconds and heals 400 potency on each weapon skill hit. Big change outside of the duration are 2 new buffs, Stem the Flow and Stem the Tide. Stem the Flow reduces damage taken by 10% for 4 seconds, while Stem the Tide creates a barrier around the Warrior that absorbs damage equivalent to a 400 potency heal for 30 seconds. Bloodwetting also shares a recast timer with Nascent Flash, just like Raw Intuition. Why? More on that soon. Again, now, I want to draw another parallel to the Paladin. The Paladin had Knight's Benediction and Knight's Resolve, so it seems like they're really coming through, adding a few more mechanics to really help players who have a high skill cap get the most out of their characters. And that's good on a tank, because the more that a tank can control the fight, the more that a tank can handle, the more time DPS has to be like, look at you! Boom! Blow it up. So we're moving down here. Onslaught now has 3 charges and no Beast Gauge cost, giving you way more mobility in line with gap closers on other tanks. Upheaval also loses its Beast Gauge cost, but provides a bit of potency to boot. The base ability has 2 charges, with a third coming from an enhanced Onslaught trait at level 88. Nascent Flash is now a 400 potency heal for each weapon skill successfully delivered. That's a big hit to the self-heal inherent to the ability, but some mitigation has been added via traits to make up for that. Nascent Glint has been boosted to 100% of Nascent Flash's heal to compensate, and lasts 8 seconds now. The second trait you receive at level 82 is Enhanced Nascent Flash, which, similar to Holy Sheltron, which gives Nascent Flash the same 2 buffs available for Bloodwetting, Stem the Flow, and Stem the Tide. If you're by yourself, use Bloodwetting to get more mitigation. Bloodwetting's 10% plus Stem the Flow is 10% plus the heal. In a party, use Nascent Flash to provide allies with Nascent Glint. At level 84, there's also the new Enhanced Equilibrium trait that adds an additional 200 potency heal over time to Equilibrium for 15 seconds. Melee Mastery is another level 84 trait that increases the potency of Heavy Swing, Maim, Storm's Path, and Storm's Eye. Very similar again to increasing Fast Blade, Riot Blade, Royal Authority, and I believe there's one more in there as well. There's less of a hit to the potency for the pre-trait versions compared to the Paladin. But the combo potency did take a hit across the board. Another solid bit of healing is the new Enhanced Shake It Off trait, adding a 300 potency heal to the barrier ability, but bear in mind that these exact numbers are still subject to change. Exactly. Potency numbers will still be tuned. Look for gameplay mechanics. Look for things that you want to see in the game, or a character that plays the way you like, and play that. Numbers will follow. And unless you're doing absolute bleeding edge, savage, and extreme rating, you can get through it. Some fights might be a little harder, but you can get through it with good play and a good group. So don't worry so much about the meta there. There, of course, will always be a meta. Don't worry about it so much. This change to Nascent Flash may soften the warrior's ability to pull wall-to-wall even in the toughest dungeons, but you gain a bit more control over the heal when you really need it in all of the cases. Overall, the job is still in a great place. I would agree with that. So we have the Enhanced Shake It Off trait at level 76. It adds a healing effect to Shake It Off. Cure potency is, of course, 300. We have the Bloodwetting at level 82. Reduces damage taken by 10%. The duration is 8 seconds. It grants Stem the Flow, reducing damage taken by 10%. That duration is 4 seconds. It also grants Stem the Ride, which I think is a typo. It should be Stem the Tide, creating a barrier around self that absorbs the damage equivalent of a heal of 400 potency. That duration is 30 seconds, which is nice. You don't want your barrier to go off, and this way, if you're dealing with emergency stuff, you can pop it, boom, and now you bought your healer a couple of GCDs, especially if you have other mitigation going at the same time. It does, however, share a recast timer with Nascent Flash, so keep that in mind that you can't abuse your mitigation tools so much. Bloodwetting. And then, of course, it reduces damage taken by 10%, restores HP with each weapon skill successfully delivered, Stem the Flow, and, of course, Stem the Tide. Raw Intuition Mastery upgrades Raw Intuition into Bloodwetting. We saw Bloodwetting previously. Enhanced Nascent Flash grants Stem the Flow, reducing damage taken by 10%. Its duration is 4 seconds, and grants Stem the Tide, creating a barrier around self that absorbs damage equivalent equal to 400 potency. So, of course, that's great. Nascent Flash now does two things. And remember, it does share a recast timer with Bloodwetting, so keep that in mind. You can't have that there. Enhanced Nascent Flash grants Stem the Flow, and Stem the Tide. And that's just a picture. These are just pictures of the particular trait as you'll see them in your spellbook. Enhanced Equilibrium, level 84, grants healing over time to self. Cure potency is 200, and the duration is 15 seconds. Melee Mastery increases the potency of Heavy Swing to 200, Maim to 130, Storm's Path to 120, and Storm's Eye to 120. Orogeny delivers an attack with a potency of 150 to all nearby enemies, shares a recast timer with Upheaval, so again, keep that in mind. Enhanced Onslaught adds a third charge to Onslaught. Perfect. So you go from 2 to 3. It has no cost, so that way you have gap closers in line. I know as a Paladin, I have 2 charges of, I think it's Intervene. It's not Intervene. Intercept. I have 2 charges of Intercept. And I do also have Intervene, which is very useful, but that's not a gap closer. That's more of a buff. And then, of course, at level 90, Primal Rend delivers a critical hit to target and all enemies nearby it with potency of 700 for the first enemy and 70% less for all remaining enemies. So half of that would be, let's say, would be 350. So you're looking at around 200. Well, a little of 200 there. Don't count me the math. I haven't done math in a little while. Not since yesterday in a video. So you'd be like, man, there's no excuse. You should do the math. You're an engineer. Yeah, but I'm not paid to be an engineer right now. I'm paid to be a YouTuber and comment on things. And that's what we're doing. Stacks of inner-release are not consumed upon execution. Very nice. So that means more direct hit, more critical hit. Well, technically it would be 1 in that point, because they are both critical and direct. So that means you're getting more base damage and more crit damage. Can only be executed while under the effect of the Primal Rend ready, granted by inner release. All right, and that was the Warrior. Guys, what do you guys think about the Warrior? Do we like the Warrior? Do we think that the Warrior is going to be a good tank? Is anybody here going to be maining a Warrior? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't really delved into the warrior at all. I saw the paladin, as you guys know, big fan of the paladin. I was like, oh, sword, shield, holy light, let's do this. But, not gonna lie, bringing a big axe, crashing down, does seem to be fun. It's just, I don't want to start a new class so much and get serious with it, and then midway through have to learn a whole bunch of other things. So, I may wait to try the warrior until Endwalker. But that being said, I already am an Omnicrafter and an Omnigatherer, so maybe, just maybe, I might lean into that. That being said, guys, if you like this type of video, or you like this video in particular, or you like me, why not click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything the channel does. In addition, I stream on Twitch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so feel free to check that out. We often do Final Fantasy XIV, and you can find me on the Siren server. I'm Nimicry Hopwater. You'll find me on the Aether Data Center on the Siren server, so feel free to check that out. The other thing I'm going to say is that if you want to help out the channel, you're welcome to subscribe to the Patreon, and that's patreon.com/Nimicry. I have some wonderful people who help me there, and of course, there are a few exclusive perks, so keep that in mind as you will. Honestly, it was a joy to make these videos. I like having fun, I like rambling a little bit, and I'm messing around with skits in the beginning. Tell me what you think of those. But without further ado, guys, it was wonderful seeing you. Thank you for that, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.